Good morning. The Pardon Board is reconvening at David Wade Correctional Center. Would the staff at Wade please introduce yourself for the record?
Gary Goodwin, Warden.
Tim Wynn, Prison Harbor classification.
Colonel Malcolm's also in here, but he's on a phone call. So Colonel Roger Malcolm, that's everybody, Mr. Knight.
Okay, thank you. And we have one case there today. That's Mr. Douglas. Good morning, Mr. Douglas.
Good morning.
Would you introduce yourself to the Pardon Board? Tell us your name and your DOC number, please.
Marvin Douglas, 099760.
Yes, sir, Mr. Douglas. Let me introduce the Pardon Board to you. I'm Cheryl Renatza. To my far left is Mrs. Jackson. To my immediate left, Mr. Roche, and Mr. Freeman is to my right. I want to acknowledge the folks that have joined us today. We have your daughter, Carla Marchman, who will be speaking on your behalf at the appropriate time. And then we have the victim is Connie Parks, one of your victims, will be speaking in opposition at the appropriate time. First, I'll read some identifying information and then ask you to confirm it. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Jackson. Your case has been assigned to her this morning. So, Mr. Douglas, you're here today before the Pardon Board seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced, in Red River Parish for aggravated rape in September of 1982. You received a life sentence. Then in March of 1983 in Caddo Parish, you received a forcible rape conviction. You received 25 years on each count. That was to run concurrent with the life sentence. Mr. Douglas, is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Thank you, Mrs. Jackson.
Good morning, Mr. Douglas. How are you doing today?
All right.
Are you having any trouble hearing me right now?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, great. Well, let's just get started. How old are you, Mr. Douglas?
Ma'am.
How old are
61.
and how long have you been incarcerated on these
41
charges?
years. 41.
So you were 20 when you committed these crimes?
19.
Okay, so tell us about yourself when you were 19. What was going on in your life at age 19? Had you graduated from high school?
No, ma'am.
When did you quit school? How old were you? What grade when you quit school?
I was in 8th grade.
Eighth
I was in 8th
grade?
grade. Yes, ma'am.
And why did you stop going to school in the 8th grade?
Well, ma'am, I was young and I was going in the wrong direction at the time and I just didn't want to go to school anymore.
And your mom just said, okay, you don't have to go?
Well, not really.
Okay.
I didn't have a father.
How old were you when you dropped out?
13.
Okay, so apparently you didn't have a lot of structure in your life, because I don't think most 13-year-olds can just decide that they don't want to go to school anymore.
Well, I did have structure in my life. I quit at 13, but I started working on a job to try to help my mother out.
What kind of job can a 13-year-old have?
Well, back then, I learned to drive heavy equipment. I could drive combiners.
13? You can't even get a license at 13.
Well, back then you could work during those years when I was coming up.
Okay,
I was working on the farm.
okay. And is that how you knew your victim? Because you worked on their farm?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so tell us what happened on the night of these crimes, Mr. Douglas, tell us what happened.
Well, me and my fall partner was out joyriding, smoking and drinking, and the
Smoking what?
car broke down
Oh, smoking
side the
what?
road,
Wait, stop talking.
marijuana, marijuana.
Mr. Douglas, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I was
So you
smoking
Well, how were you when you started using marijuana?
probably around the age of 12.
How does a 12-year-old get access to marijuana?
Well, man, back then you had people running around that sold marijuana, and I bought it from them.
And what were you drinking?
Wine,
And who was your co-defendant?
Robert Broadway.
How did you know him?
We went to school together.
Okay. And so you and he had been riding around, and then what?
Well, the car broke down, and the car broke down about,
Let's stop it right there. Did the car really break down?
yes, ma'am.
And how were y'all able to get it started to take the victim away?
We didn't.
Okay, well, go ahead, tell me what happened.
Okay, we were walking toward the victim house, and we came up with the plot that we were gonna go burglarize them. I went to the house, I knocked on the door. The mother came out to give me a ride home. But instead of burglarizing, my Paul partner got on the other side of the truck and started driving, and we drove off, and that's where the rape of the mother happened.
Why did you participate in the rape of the mother?
Just acted off of my first thought and desire before I know what I was doing.
You knew this lady
Yes, ma'am.
and she had actually taken you home before, hadn't she?
Yes, ma'am.
And so this is somebody who had shown kindness to you, you knew her,
Yes, ma'am.
and decide that you're gonna participate in raping her.
Ma'am, I wasn't in my right frame of mind then.
I don't understand what that means, because you know rape is wrong.
Yes, I do know it was wrong. I'm without excuse.
I agree.
I know what I did wrong.
Oh, okay, but you raped her twice.
No,
Well, that's, according
No,
to
ma'am.
her, you and your co-defendant took turns holding her down while the other one committed the rape. But she said you raped her even another time after the co-defendant had raped. So her state was that she was raped twice by you. So after you all raped her, then what happened?
we tied her up and drove back to her house.
Well, you tied her up and
Forced
left
our
her,
way in, tied her side the road.
and you put her under something. What'd you put her under?
Some tin.
Okay. And you went back to her house, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did y'all go back to her house?
We went back to the house to finish the burglary, and we tied the daughter up. We loaded everything on the truck. Then we drove off.
Whoa. No. What happened to the daughter at the house?
Nothing happened to her at the house.
Well, you took her somewhere,
Yes, ma'am.
and then what happened to her?
We raped her.
Why?
Ma'am, I can't really explain who that that person was back then. Like I say, I acted off my first thought and desire before I know what I was doing. I know these people, they know me, they trusted me. I've been places with these people away from everybody. I never tried anything like that. But this particular night, I did. I'm without excuse for what I done.
Okay,
And even though I was drinking and on alcohol, I can't use that as an excuse either.
mhm.
And
Well, let me ask you this, because when you applied for this hearing and you were telling, what happened, you only mentioned one of the rape victims. You didn't mention that both of them have been raped. Why is that? Why did you talk about both?
because on the clemency state which crime is I'm attacking, that I'm seeking clemency for, and that's why I didn't say anything about the mother, because it was in two different parishes, and I was trying to do what the paper said.
Okay. All right, I'll accept that. Now you got a 25-year sentence on enforceable rape.
Yes, ma'am.
So you've completed that sentence. Is that
Yes, ma'am.
right? So the
Yes.
only one that you're serving time on is for the aggravated rape. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that kind of explains it for me. I see that you've taken all 4 phases of the sex offender treatment. And then now there's a phase 5. We're gonna talk about phase 5 separately. But let's just talk about the sex offender program. How did that program help you understand why you chose to commit these rapes? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about the crime of rape that helped you
Well,
understand the situation? Go ahead.
well, the phrase I just been telling you is that acting off my first thought and desire before thinking about what I was doing. That's the only thing I could see that caused me to do what I did. Drinking alone wasn't an excuse, because these people was like a family to me, and I did this to them. I denied a lot of stuff when I first started off, but I learned that why I'm gonna be in denial of something that I done, and I was trying to find an excuse, but it ain't no excuse. I don't even look at drinking or getting drunk or weed as an excuse. I was selfish and it's something that I did that I shouldn't have done.
And I appreciate, your candor with that, Mr. Douglas.
All I'm trying to do is be earnest on what happened. I mean, I'm not trying to deny it, and I'm not trying to make an excuse.
And I do appreciate that, and the rest of the board appreciates that. But in a way, rapes are kind of different from other kinds of crimes. Sometimes people just have this urge to commit a rape. And unless you understand, what causes you to have this urge, sometimes it's something that's happened to you, sometimes it's a lot of different things. But until you understand, why your mind would even go there, how can you make sure it doesn't go there again?
Well, ma'am, I don't use drugs and alcohol as an excuse, but it did alter my mind. If I had not been on drugs and alcohol, my mind wouldn't have took me to doing a crime like that, because many years ago, I come to understand that I used to wonder why I got so much time for rape when I didn't kill anyone, but I come to understand that raping a woman is just like killing, it's worse because it's something they got to deal with for the rest of their life and their family.
Okay. I'm glad you gained that insight. Did you ever actually take victim awareness, or was that part of the sex offender treatments that you took?
I'm in victim awareness. Well, I started last week.
Okay, so when did you come to understand how devastating rape is? What made you come to that realization?
Well, after doing time in Angola and coming to terms with myself and what I did, and I really acknowledged what I had did. When the crime was first permitted and years went by, I always been bothered by what I did. It wasn't a day went by up until this day that I haven't been bothered by it because it was wrong. And it's not just the rape charge itself, it's who I did it to. I did it to people that trusted me. I could have went to them people's house at any time and they would let me in because they trusted me. And I'm not the same person. I learned what I did was terribly wrong.
Well, tell me about the phase 5 of sex offender treatment, because that's new. So tell us what that involves and how long you've been in phase 5.
Phase five is what we use to help other offenders in giving people points about sex offense or what to look for. At one time, we had shot videos of showing people in society what to expect from a predator. And it's also, we can go around and talk to people about sex crimes. It's really community, helping the community and the people around us.
Have you actually gone out and done any speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you do that and where did you go?
Well, I talk to people here that get locked up,
Okay.
and the videos, this was done when Dr. Corn used to come here and he used to let us make videos.
Okay. What's your job at the prison?
I work on the North Yard crew as a clerk.
And how long have you done that?
Well, I've been on the crew about 17 years. At first, I was a lawnmower pusher, then I got converted into a clerk.
And what does a clerk do?
Pass out tools to everybody else that work on the crew.
You've had almost 80 disciplinary write-ups. That sound about right?
Yes, ma'am.
The last one was in 2013, so about 10 years ago. So it was for a Rule 4 disobedience. You remember what that was about?
Yes, ma'am. I was watching television and I went to use the bathroom and left them on the seat, and I was wrote up for that.
Are you a trustee?
No, ma'am.
Is it because of your charge? Or your disciplinary record?
Well, got the charge.
Warden, is Warden in the room?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey,
Judge
Jackson,
Warden,
the reason he's not a trustee is because of his charge due to our physical plant and our location here at Wade. We're unable to make some people trustees just based on the nature of the crime. He's been at Wade 19 years though, and he's had a total of 5 write-ups since he's been here, since 2004. You mentioned 78 total write-ups. That's accurate. He's had a good conduct record in the last 19 years at this institution. He's got an excellent work evaluation that Colonel Tolliver submitted for his work on the yard crew as well as his clerk's position. He did get his GED in 1994. That's noted in his record. He got it while at Louisiana State Penitentiary. He has attended and completed 4 phases of the sex offender program and has participated in phase 5, and he has done that. I know the information we sent in completed because phase 5 never completes, but he has participated in it and does assist with the presentation of that information to other sex offenders that are in the group. And you see the rest of the classes that he's taken, Thinking to Change, AANA. He's involved in faith-based programming, and he recently started victim awareness as well. So he's done well at this institution. I know the nature of his crime is very serious, and there's a lot of consideration into that. But as far as the 19 years I've known him, he's done really well at this institution, Ms. Jackson.
All right, thank you very much, Ward.
Mrs. Manance, that's all.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Could we hear from Miss Carla Bell Marchman now?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, we need you to be in a stationary position. There you go. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Go ahead. What would you like us to know?
Okay. I'm just saying, I'm also a minister, and with my dad, I feel like he have, given a lot back in prison for his crime. I've been talking to him. I've been visiting with him the last couple of years. I feel like he's rehabilitated, and I actually do outreach ministry with my church, work closely with my pastor. I feel like coming out, we can also get him to help and minister to some of these young people out here that's committing all these crimes, to let them know what prison is really like. Because I think they don't really understand. And I'm actually trying to form a ministry where people like my dad can actually minister to these young people, hopefully to save the next generation and this generation. I also have plans. I have a self-employment business, me and my husband. So I'm going to offer him work because he's good with his hands. And if you let my dad go and release him into my hands, I'm going to do my very best with the Lord's help to keep him on the right side and on the right path.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for your remarks. We also have with us Miss Connie Parks. Could we hear from you, ma'am?
Good morning.
Morning. Is there anything you want us to know?
Thank you for listening to me today. I was not sure how to write this statement. I researched this for days. Then I decided to speak honestly and from my heart after much prayer. So right or wrong, here is my statement. I was 14 years old when it was happening to me. I was a scared child. From 1982, I have relived this night every year. February the 18th, 1982 will always be ingrained in my mind. I don't trust people. I don't let any boys or men get anywhere close to me except for my husband. And that has affected me my entire life. I have bouts of depression and low self-esteem. When this happened, we were not allowed to talk about it in my house. It was like it never happened. But let me tell you, it happened. I can remember every detail of that night and what these men did to me. There is things after I got away that I don't remember. So that is from trauma and shock. But I can tell you from the time they picked me up to the time they let me go, things happened. They left me in an abandoned shack. Nothing but a t-shirt on. To feed for myself after they raped me. Was not deserve to be out. Not when I have to live with this every single day. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Parks, we really appreciate your taking the time and the courage that you have today to give us your thoughts. We appreciate it. Mr. Douglas, is there anything you would like to say to the board before we vote?
I had wrote something down, if you allow me to read it.
Sure.
I would like to first thank the board for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm truly remorseful, deeply regretful for what I've done to my victim. On February 18, 1982, I committed a horrible crime upon Ms. Connie and Peggy Collins. It brought drama upon them, their family, and my family as well. There has not been a day gone by that I have not been bothered by what I've done. I'm so ashamed of the crime I committed, and many years ago, I came to understand that raping a woman is the worst thing than murder, because it's something they have to cope with their entire life. Back then, I was young and under the influence of drugs and alcohol. My state of mind was altered. I was lost that night, acting out on my first thoughts and desires without thinking about what I was doing or who I was doing it to, and that I was committing the worst crime in the world. I have been through programs and realized how my actions were without excuse. Today, I'm not the same person who I was back then. My heart and mind is set on making the right choices to use all the power within me, never to harm another person. Also, I pray to God for the strength that I may lack. I don't take anything for granted. I see life in an entirely different way. I have learned to be open and honest on my crime and asking my victims for forgiveness, although I know they can never forget. I have been locked up for 41 years, never being the victim. But Miss Connie and Peggy Collins has been the victim upon to this very day. Many years ago, I have prayed that they overcame the pain and force I caused upon them and their family, and I still do. And regardless of whether the board grant me or not, I'm gonna continue to try to be the best person I can and to help others, even if I die in prison. And I'm deeply sorry for what I did. And thank y'all for hearing my case.
Yes, sir, Mr. Douglas, thank you. I think you are prepared to vote. Mrs. Jackson will be voting first.
Mr. Douglas, all of these cases are so hard because the impact of crimes are just devastating lives. And I have to say that when I came into this interview today, I had no idea, what to expect from you. And I was pleasantly surprised that you recognize just the horrific nature of what you've done. You recognize, the terrible impact that you've had on the lives of both ladies as well as their families. And I'm glad that you have come to that point where you're accepting responsibility. So this is hard for me. I have to, weigh you know, what the victim is still going through, and I also have to weigh the growth that you have demonstrated. You have been in prison for 41 years. You were 19 years old when this crime occurred. So for me, I think you have demonstrated a level of rehabilitation that makes me believe that you no longer pose a danger or threat to others. And so my vote would be to recommend a commutation sentence to 90 years. That's just one vote.
Mr. Roche.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Douglas, I echo the words and the statements of Ms. Jackson. I got something I didn't expect today, but I just cannot excuse the egregious nature of this crime. The victim of this crime was 14 years old at the time. One of the victims was 14 years old at the time. 41 years later, at the age of 55, she is still emotionally, mentally, and physically affected by this horrendous offense. Law enforcement opposition is opposed. The DA's office is opposed. For all the reasons I just mentioned, I'm going to deny your request.
Mr. Freeman.
This is a very confusing case. I agree with both of my colleagues. You've done well in prison. But the heartache and pain you caused out, it's hard to weigh those things against each other. But my vote today is due to victim opposition and the serious nature of the offense to deny.
So, Mr. Douglas, because we have only 4 members here today, and as you know, it takes 4 like votes for a favorable decision. You've received 1 favorable vote this morning, with 2 votes that were not favorable to your application. So the result of today's proceedings, sir, is that your application for clemency has been denied. Good luck to you, sir. Warden Goodwin, that concludes our business. Thanks for accommodating us. We're going to sign off. It's 11:46. Thank you.